do. It's called Conversation with the CEO. All right, it's another episode of Conversation with the CEO. We're so excited today. As you know, what's important to us is learning, right? We feel like learning is everything. So our whole goal most of the time, what we're doing is we're trying to find unique people with great perspectives that can educate us on our journey as we as entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs and potential CEOs, we can just pick their brain and maybe get that one nugget. You know, I learned something from Brian Tracy years ago where he said he reads a lot, not because he wants to tell you what the whole book said. He reads because sometimes there's one nugget in a book. In a 500-page book, you might find one nugget that will change your life. And so we approach this the same way. We do these interviews because we believe that you can pick up a nugget somewhere along the way that can make a difference in your life. All right, make sure you share, make sure you like, make sure you go to our website, the Lynchpin Bunch Inc. I want to make sure to tell you guys I'm excited about this because we're donating some of our information in terms of our trading system. And we're making that at pick your own price. So make sure you go over to the Lynchpin Bunch Inc. Take advantage of that. That information is very, very needed and it'll help you get where you're going. Hey, yo, something's going on over at our website. You want to go check it out. I promise you. Head to the lynchpinbunchinc.com. We're doing something extra special. What we're excited to offer you is called the Everybody versus Wall Street package. Yes, it's going to have a new version of our audio book. It's also going to have a couple of videos. It's going to have information that we haven't shared, stuff that's important to investing that you're going to really, really appreciate. Here's what's cool about it. You get to pick your own price. You get to tell us what you want to pay for it, okay? Whatever you give us, we're going to give you access to it, all right? That's what we want to do. We want to sow into your life. We want to change your life. We want to make a difference here, okay? So we're excited. You're ready to start trading. You're ready to start investing. You're ready to start growing. So go ahead and take advantage of that right now. Pick your own price. We got another guest here today. I'm excited about this guy. I like him because he comes off like a really kind dude. I don't know if he's a Cowboys fan or not, but I need him to be. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the CEO, co-founder of a company called Qualifi, and his name is Darrian Mikell. Now, what's cool about this particular company is it's helping with recruitment and hiring, and it takes out a lot of the biases so that companies can really get some amazing talent. Now, we know that over the last year, hiring and getting people to work has been such a challenge. And that has changed the game of the recruitment world. And they're having to figure out new ways. And he's got some of that new technology that does that. So, hey, man, welcome to the team. As we say, we consider you part of the team now that you joined the interview, man. So how's everything?
Things are good. Thank you for the introduction. I think we might get started off on the wrong foot, though. I'm not a Cowboys fan.
What? What?
No.
Oh, man.
I will say I like people more than teams. I'm a legacy Eagles fan, though, so we might be at odds a little bit. But I'm a fan of Dak, though, so I'm hoping he has a good year. But yeah, thanks for having me on the team, and excited to be on the show.
Man, I'm excited about what you got going on, man. First of all, man, people don't realize how much money it goes into the recruitment world. Billions and billions is spent in the recruitment world. You have companies like ZipRecruiter. You have companies like Indeed, Kelly Services, and the list goes on and on and on. And these companies make a living off of helping companies to recruit exceptional talent to retain, to help grow the visions of these companies. That's not an easy task. People don't understand, like hiring somebody.
It's not easy.
It's not easy at all, man.
Yeah.
And they're learning that through this pandemic more than ever. So talk to us about what got you into this world where you say, hey, I'm going to help with the recruiting, because that's unique within itself.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one of the interesting things that I've found, especially, part of my job, our team's job, is to talk to recruiters and HR leaders on a daily basis. And one of the cool things that I found out early on is a lot of people stumble into it. People don't, there are degrees that you can get to go into HR, go into that field. A lot of people just kind of stumble into it. And that's kind of my story. Before Qualifi, my startup now, I was at another startup company and we were a pretty fast growing organization. The founder brought me on as his employee number one. And I was essentially a one-man ops team for most of my time there. That included what my main background is actually in finance. So that's what I graduated with in terms of a degree, but started to take on more responsibilities, all the general legal administrative responsibilities. And then a key one for the first 40 or 50 people we hired or so was taking on the HR and recruiting responsibilities. So that's how I got into this world. And also the genesis of what I do now kind of stems back from that experience and some of the pain points that I recognized, during that. Yeah, it's not easy hiring people. Another thing I learned is just every industry, every organization operates differently. And so it creates different nuances within, your people.
What are some of the headaches that's because we've been hearing about this a lot lately, like people can't keep employees. What have you noticed are some of the things that's causing this to be an issue now? What's the real reason? I mean, a lot of people say it's because of the extra federal unemployment bonuses that they were getting, but is it more to that or not?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot more to it. I think there's more to uncover. I know some of the benefits are starting to expire. So I think more data will come in terms of seeing if that is actually the cause or not. I've also heard in terms of the shortages and the challenges, some of it stems to availability for childcare, availability for transportation. And so those are definitely some of the things I could see, influencing that shortage. So, yeah.
Okay. Question with Qualified. Walk us through how does this, like, what's different?
What do we do?
What's unique and what separates you guys from your average recruitment company or an Indeed?
Yeah. For sure. So one of the pain points that I recognized during my time at my previous company was the problem of what seemed pretty simple at the time, a phone interview. It's a pretty standard step in most hiring processes, a time where recruiters, schedule a quick phone call with the candidate to see if they're a good fit or potentially could be a good fit before they spend a lot more time with them, bring them in to meet their team or go through other steps in the process. And so that was something that was a part of my process when I was doing the recruiting. However, despite it being hopefully a short interaction with candidates, 20 to 30 minute phone call, sometimes they run over, sometimes you're not able to get all the information you need during that conversation. They go in different ways. And then it's also really repetitive. You're asking a lot of the same questions over and over again, and you're doing it with multiple candidates for the same type of role. And so I found it to be, pretty cumbersome. Like I said, I had a lot of other responsibilities, and that's the case for a lot of recruiting teams and recruiters. Screening is not their only job. They have so many other things that they're doing, and a lot of times they're stretched pretty thin, especially the types of people that we work with now are doing, hundreds of interviews per month. And so it's a real challenge. So what we do at Qualifi is we allow them to pre-record audio-based questions so recruiting teams can use their own voice to create, personal yet standardized interviews that they can then scale with by inviting and interviewing, like I said, upwards of hundreds to thousands of candidates, within a month. Typically, they're able to interview hundreds within the same day through our process. So they send out these invites as a text message or an email. Then the candidates have the convenience to be able to respond to that over the phone whenever they're free. And so it makes for really fast replies, structured and organized process. All the questions are consistent. And so when you talked about, how we can help with, influencing diversity, mitigating bias, it's through the structured nature of it. And then we also are only focused on, what the candidates are saying and not what they look like, how they look when they're saying it. It's all audio based. So it comes back as a recorded response. And we also do transcriptions. And so we provide that instantly to the recruiting teams to be able to review and share with their team and make actionable decisions on. And so it's a really seamless process, and
that's awesome, man.
Really good success with it so far.
What's your skill set? What's your skill set to be able to do something? I mean, it seemed like to me you really need to know a lot about computer programming and apps and all that to do something like that. Is that what you've become pretty good at?
No. So my skill set, I think, at least, hopefully this is, I'm self-aware enough to know where my gaps are. My skill set, though, is collaborating. So I couldn't have done this without the help of, my team. We've started to grow recently, but especially my founding team. So the really cool part of the Qualifi story is I got to start this with my younger brother. So he also had some experience doing recruiting in the home healthcare space. So there's a lot of challenges with home healthcare, especially some of the ones that we mentioned, and shortages and just the turnover that you see there. So this idea really resonated with him when we got started on it. He's not a programmer either. So we brought on a couple of other co-founders that, are really strong in the development side and have helped build the core of what we have to offer today. And then we started to grow the team. But that's my favorite part about entrepreneurship, is just ability to work with people. I have ideas for days, but most of what I wouldn't be able to do on my own. So it's just fun to bring new faces into the mix and ideate, talk through the vision and start to execute on it with other people that are, hopefully smarter than me. So that's my favorite part.
Now you come from the startup business, and you've worked your way up. Now you're doing your own thing. What would you say? Because now, when I was young, you wanted to be a zookeeper, a police officer, and a doctor, a lawyer. Right now, people want to be they want to be VC, startup. It's a new time. What do you say to people who are saying, I want to do what you're doing. I got an idea. I want to put it together, and I want to do the same thing. I want to run a company. Talk to them for a minute about what you've learned from some of this startup challenges and successes.
Yeah. I'm the friend in most of my groups that's going to tell you to think big and quit your day job, go pursue your dreams, kind of thing. So that's always me. I've given that advice. I've calibrated it a little bit, because I know that, one, entrepreneurship's rightfully not for everybody, and that's not a good thing nor a bad thing. It's just like knowing your strengths and where you're going to find the most enjoyment in your career, and where you can maximize, what you're good at. But I think if you have a vision to pursue anything, including entrepreneurship, then I think you should start down that path. And for me, a lot of my ideas, a lot of the things that I've seen work stem from being your first customer in a lot of ways. So having a pain that you want to solve, that's not the end all be all, because you have to validate that with other customers that are actually going to pay you money. But starting with the pain point that you recognize, starting with this, like a real problem in the world that can be solved through technology or a new application or a way of doing things, that's usually a good place to start recognizing and having an open mind towards recognizing different problems that are out there. I think that's where it starts from. And then from there, go validate it. The best form of validation is getting real paying customers. But there's baby steps along that path that you can use to, validate, whether it be getting feedback, doing surveys, showing mock-ups of what you're thinking, having people reshape that idea, helping to craft that, or mold that into something that is usable, valuable. And again, trying to get, real paying customers is one of the biggest and one of the greatest feelings. First of all, like when you finally get someone to pay for something, it's like, man, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So
is there a magic? Is there like a magic to that? Because, some people, I don't know. I think you got two types of people, right? And again, that's, in my opinion, there's this person, they understand that they're going to pay. They want to pay because life is worked well for them just by spending money, right? You spend money on the product, you use the product, you end up benefiting from the product. Then you got the other person who's like, I don't want to pay for that. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how great it is,
Yeah.
I want to go get it free. And I call it, they like to mill piece things together. They go here and they try to take a little bit and build their own thing for free. What's
I'm
the
that
magic?
guy. I'm that guy. I'm pretty cheap. Like, I'm going to use the free version as long as possible. I'm going to like create new accounts and try to, work my way around it. But I think for anything that you're building, especially, I mean, those are different personas, within like you have a customer demographic that you're going after, but there might be different personas. So we go after, as a general bucket, HR directors and VP of HR, or talent acquisition directors, VPs of talent acquisition. That's a general target audience, but then we have personas for each, for different types of people that we encounter, whether it be someone that's very budget conscious or somebody that's very efficiency oriented. And so I think those are some nuances within your customer segment that you start to learn about, and you can kind of craft your story to address those different types of people and have different ways you approach those sales. And so that's like one piece of advice on for like a newer person starting to sell a product that you can think about as you're building it. But I think the real piece there, though, is that if you're creating something of value, there's ways to extract that value truly over time. So even for me, I'm the person that uses the free trials as long as possible. But if I'm using it and continuously using it, I start to like rely on that piece of technology. And then there's always that point, in the different feature set where it's like, oh, to get this feature, you're gonna have to pay for it. To get this level of volume out of the product, you're gonna have to pay for that. And I inevitably end up doing that in a lot of cases. And so even for those types of people, there's a way to work them through your funnel, work them to that point, and get that value on both sides.
That's awesome. I remember I was young, man. I was probably I know about 12 or 13 maybe, and I was living in Memphis at the time, and they were building this thing called the Pyramid. And they were building, it was really nice. It was going, at the time, it was really nice. But there was this guy, I remember him standing near me, and he made this statement. And the statement, he made this statement. He says, "They're not building it big enough. This will be outdated in 20 years." And he said, if they're going to build something like that, build it bigger. And so I grew up, right? They don't even use that anymore. They built the FedEx Forum now where the Memphis Grizzlies play, and they barely even use that thing. And so what happens with us when we're building something that we literally, because at the time they thought it was great.
Yeah.
But what happens to us as business owners or people who have ideals and dreams where we really don't build it big enough? Like, what happens there? Can you walk me through that? Like how we could fix that in this season? Because I think with technology, we really don't know what it's really capable of. Like even what you're doing, right? You've taken it to a whole nother level, but we still don't know what it really can be.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's like something that I've been starting to, me and the team is into is, where is this headed? Like right now we serve a really specific need in the market. We do a specific thing. Some would call it more of a point solution. And that's solving, a particular need. But I've always been a very visionary person. In saying like when I have like the smallest idea, I'm like, all right, like this could be this and then this and then this and then $1 billion company, like how do we get there? Not that it's all about, the monetary value, but really starting to expand on what we do. I think the general kind of saying is like, if you're not growing, you're dying kind of thing. That I think in a lot of ways that becomes true. But for us, it's about continuing to serve our customers in new ways and in greater ways so that we have more meaningful relationships with them, and that we're able to provide more and more value over time to them to one, from a revenue standpoint that helps with retaining those customers, allows us to attract new types of customers. But the more exciting part of it, for me as a idea person, a product person, is just opening up new possibilities of what we can do. That's always exciting about, right now we do what I kind of outlined. We have an audio-based, interview approach, but there's so many things that we can do with the data. There's so many broken steps in the hiring process. Like we've solved one right now. There's other broken steps in the hiring process. What else is possible? What hasn't been done before? Mm-hmm. Those are really exciting things to think about and work with customers to understand how we can solve their needs better. Mm-hmm.
What's one of the biggest challenges you've noticed for when it comes to hiring in companies, period? Like what's that common, like you talk to 10 different companies, 10 different levels, and they say it's always, man, this right here is my biggest headache. What have you guys noticed?
It's interesting. I don't know if there's like one, I'm sure there is. I don't know if there's one thing. So one, for context, we tend to talk with what I would say high volume recruiters. So folks that, they're hiring hundreds of people a month. They are posting jobs and getting tons of applications, and they're having a really difficult time to screen through those applications and resumes to figure out who truly is the best, qualified person to bring through to the next steps in the process. So from from that lens, that is one of the biggest challenges. The other is in certain industries, the shortages, not only during current times, but in general, there's certain types of roles that are hard to hire for consistently. There's sometimes just a shortage in general, not because of pandemic issues, but just the talent isn't always.
Truck drivers. Let's throw one in there.
Truck drivers. In my world,
very short load.
Right now, we're hiring for software engineers. Quick plug: if you're a software engineer, hit me up. And that sometimes is very challenging to hire. There's not a lot of talent, and when there is, they get scooped off the market. So you have to move really fast if you want to hire a great, software engineer or poach them from another company. And so those are the types of things that we see as challenges. The others are this one's actually pretty consistent. Hiring managers are sometimes, not that they're difficult to work with, but recruiters have a mindset and hiring managers have a job that they're doing over and over. And a hiring manager is basically the person that the candidate is going to ultimately work for, the person that needs them on the team. But the recruiter is the one doing a lot of the work to attract that person, interview that person, and bring the person into the mix. And so sometimes there's a lot of not being on the same page, whether it's who are we looking for in the first place? What's the timeline? What do I need from you as the hiring manager in order to land this candidate and screen this candidate effectively? So that is often a difficulty because there's a lot of miscommunication that can happen, which creates, even longer hiring processes, and you can lose good candidates because of, issues with that in the process. And so that is something that has come up a decent amount. Also something we can help with to some degree.
Yeah. Have you noticed when people are going from job interview to job interview, sometimes you hear people say, man, it's deja vu. It seems like this company's asking the same questions and the process is the same. Like, are you noticing that that's an issue as well? Because people have made it such a system that the system within itself comes off as impersonal to a certain degree. After you've gone on 4 or 5 interviews, it all feels the same?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to how candidates perceive going through multiple hiring processes. So one, just for context, we probably don't have that overlap with, candidates that have come through where they've done this same interview, where they've done an interview through Qualifi with multiple companies. We hopefully at some point we'll have that sort of scale. But what I can say is that with us specifically, it's very personal in the sense of it's the recruiter's voice. They can ask whatever questions they would like. We actually coach them on how to take the questions that they typically ask in a live interview, how to script them and make it an engaging process through Qualifi. And I would expect that that's similar to, a candidate that's gone to 4 or 5 different companies for interviews, is that you're going to get a slightly different experience from every employer that they're talking to. Some of the same questions, when can you start? When, what makes you qualified for this role, sort of wage expectations you have. Those are probably going to be some of the logistical questions that are similar, but every organization approaches interviewing a little bit differently. Sometimes they do it in less than stellar ways. I think a lot of people get in their own way with interviews. And so what we help with is creating a structure around that so you can have a consistent and repeatable way that you're interviewing your candidates, allowing you to, evaluate them more objectively and on an apples to apples sort of basis, with each of your candidates.
What do you say to people who use your system, right? And they get excited about a candidate. Is there a time frame that they still need to wait? Sometimes you'd be like, I know this is the person, and you get in front of yourself and you go ahead and say, I'm gonna hire them. And you get all excited and you forgot about the whole process. And they hired you for the process. Yeah. And then they get in the way of your process because they start saying, oh, I don't need to go any further. This is the one.
Yeah. No, so like the way that we insert Qualifi into organizations is kind of at their discretion. We usually sit after the step in the process, after the application, after the resume, there's usually a phone screen, and that's what we take over, with our technology. And then from there, they usually schedule a live interview or some sort of assessments or, interviews with the hiring manager. There's different, ways that can branch off from the rest of the hiring process. But with that, we have some people that, make hires after the phone screen. That's sometimes all they need to know in order to make a decision. And then sometimes they need to go through the process. What I would say in general, though, good talent is often hard to find. Whatever you do, act fast. If you have a process that you're taking people through, don't delay on it, move quickly, just think logically by nature. Your best candidate, if they're truly the best candidate, that means that if you have competitors in your market and they're interviewing with them, those competitors are going to like them as well. So if you want that candidate, you need to move quickly in order to land them. And so that's why I think speed and efficiency is an underrated skill set for recruiting teams to have. A lot of times recruiting processes are just way too long, which can lead to just candidates either not enjoying it and wanting to just drop off themselves, or a lot can happen, within that time frame where, like I said, other competitors in the market are also interviewing that candidate and they can move a little bit faster than you. So they might put themselves in a better position to lock that candidate in.
What have you noticed is some of the things where companies are being able to separate themselves in terms of hiring the best talent?
Yeah. One thing, like for us personally, we've gotten really great feedback on our interview process. So we eat our own dog food. We use Qualifi to hire people. We partially because we want them to know what we do as a company. We want them to experience it, especially in the context of candidate, like being a candidate. But it's also helpful for us. We're busy, and it allows us to be scalable in our recruiting processes and act fast with candidates. And then also in our live interviews that we do as a next step, we take a structured approach there. So we have scripted questions. We have a panel that interviews. I actually have an interview today that will be joining. And so we use a pretty structured process. We're looking to continuously improve on that, but we have a set list of questions that we walk every candidate through. We kind of go round robin and each are able to ask those questions, but they're the same ones for every candidate. So we have that structured approach. We're taking notes along the way. So we have that live feedback loop and we can capture that. We sometimes and typically record those interviews so we have something to refer back to. But we've gotten really great feedback on those two steps alone. People have enjoyed that experience and feel like it's a more fair approach that we move quickly through that process. Within that interview, we also do make sure that there's appropriate amount of time for them to ask us questions that we can answer. And then we usually do some sort of, depending on the type of role, some sort of work study to get an idea of how they approach the work that they'll be doing. So that's different, contextually to the job that they're taking on, whether it be a software engineer, customer service person, marketing person, what have you. And so I think having a good process is from a recruitment branding standpoint, something that you need to have to stand out, because people do review you. Like there's the glass door is real. Like you will get.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to say back in the day, people didn't have the ability to look you up and learn. Now, you go to Glassdoor, they can have bad reviews on you. And people saying, hey, I worked for you. This is what you did. It becomes more of a complete, like they can use you, but they still got to stay on top of that and respond to those complaints. Everybody doesn't always believe bad news about a company, right? Yes. But at the same time, you still need to respond and be like, hey, we see what happened. we would like to have resolved that. And so you can show your side of the story. People kind of like that, and they take that into consideration when they accept the opportunity to work at a company.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the other ways to stand out too are just treating recruitment for what it is. So recruitment is sales in a lot of ways. So knowing your audience is a big part of being a good salesperson. So knowing your audience in the context of recruiting is essential. So that surfaces in different ways, whether it's the perks and benefits that you offer, where you post your jobs, where you do your recruitment, how you fill the top of your funnel. So I think that is another way to stand out, specifically with perks and things that you might offer as benefits. Like some things might be appealing to some sort of, some types of folks, and some things won't be. So finding out what is going to capture the interest of the audience that you're going after is a big piece to that.
Mm-hmm. That's cool, man. I appreciate you sharing all this information. Man, you're into some stuff like what got you here, man? Like you're doing your thing, man.
No, we're doing a lot of stuff. We have a big vision for what Qualifi could become. I think there are a lot of aspects of how this could. I mean, we're not going down the social media path, but there's a lot of ways that Qualifi could. Right now, we focus on the recruitment side, in terms of adding value to recruiters, but creating a really great candidate experience. But I think there's a lot of ways that we can enhance the value that candidates are seeing as well. And so I think there's a lot of, right now it's like, more B2B. I think there's some B2C components that can make Qualifi, even more powerful and valuable to all the folks that interact with it.
Okay. Well, how can people reach you and work with you or ask more questions as that? Do you work does it matter how small a company is? Like say a person, small, brand new, maybe got 1 or 2 employees, but they want to grow to maybe 3.
Yeah.
Can they use you as well?
Yeah. Anybody can use us. Like I said, we typically target high volume recruiters, but we do have one of the other use cases that we've seen be really helpful, where we've been really helpful is small teams that are also hiring. That could be a single HR person that has, day-to-day operational focuses, but also has recruitment that they have to do and they're just stretched thin. Or it could be, an operations leader or even a founder that, like myself, very stretched thin, has a lot going on, and recruitment is still important. So we can help add scalability, flexibility, and give that convenience to your candidates while still having a consistent process. So yeah, big or small, we can work with you. We're a pretty broad tool. But yeah, you can find us at qualifi.hr. Qualifi is spelled with an I instead of a Y. So QUALIFI.HR. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I think I am one of the, if not the only Darrian Mikell in the world. So it should be pretty easy to find me with at least the way my last name is spelled. But would love to connect.
Man, I appreciate you for sharing your story, man. For those who are listening, what advice would you give to some up and coming CEOs, some up and coming entrepreneurs that might be trying to step out on faith just like you did and do what you're doing?
Yeah. I think the biggest one that I've recognized over this year, as we've started to grow and have some success, I, can't help but think about the harder times that when we first got started, it wasn't easy. So the biggest advice I would say is perseverance is key. Is key for me. There's plenty of times that we could have and probably should have quit. But I'm feeling really glad that we didn't. So we had that conviction to continue to pursue this. Not every idea, ends up being successful. But for me personally, I didn't want to look back and think of what could have been. And so glad that we stuck it out. So perseverance is the advice that I'd give to folks.
I like that, man. Thank you again, man. Tell your family I said hello. You got kids and all that?
House full, man. We got three little kids. We just sent our middle child off to preschool for the first time. So we have about to be 6. So 5, 3, and 1. And then we're also fostering a 13-year-old. So I'm in the teenager wheelhouse right now.
I know you go to Disney World.
I don't know about that, those expenses, but we are due for a trip. Like I was telling you earlier, we're due for a trip. So hopefully we can come down to your neck of the woods and
please, man,
meet in person sometime.
If you're ever in Sarasota, man, come out. I'll take you to one of my favorite restaurants here. It's called Mikell's on East. I love that place, and I always like to take anybody that I work with, do business with.
What kind of food we talking about?
Oh, it's all the good food, man. It's seafood. It's whatever you want it to be.
I live in Indiana, so seafood's not always easy to come by. So yeah, would love that.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your time, man, and I appreciate you. Listen, if you're trying to reach out, he is the CEO of Qualifi, and he has a great system that helps you to be better at recruiting, taking out a whole lot of the biases. It's Darrian Mikell. Once again, he's not only the CEO, but he's the co-founder of Qualifi. And you're going to probably see some big things from this guy. So keep him on your light. Don't let him grow. He might be on that. Don't let him grow without you noticing that he grew, okay? He might be on Forbes soon, okay? I love this, man. This is one of the things I like to do. These videos we're going to go back, 15 years from now, people are going to find a video like this and they're going to remember what you started out with. So this can help those that, what you were just talking about, perseverance. Like it takes a while sometimes and you go through a lot, and every day is not simple and not easy, but because 100%. You have that passion for what you want, it's going to work, and you have people that fight with that vision with you, man. So I love it, man. Hopefully you'll come back on the show later on, sure. and we can learn some more stuff from you, man. All right.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being part of it and helping to amplify, man. I appreciate this. It's been really fun.
All right, man. Have a good one. And that's a wrap. That wraps it up for us. Remember, our whole goal is to help you learn. Remember, when you learn, you grow. All right. But when you stop learning, you stop growing. When you stop growing, you die.